In today's episode, we're speaking to Magda Kay. Magda is an intimacy expert, tantra teacher, and a conscious relating coach. She's an author and the founder of the School of Intimacy. Magda's expertise bridges intimacy and entrepreneurship, setting her apart from standard business experts. Her innovative business strategies will teach you the creative visualization and energy of sexual desire to boost your business goals. Let's speak to Magda and find out how she changed her life by changing her mindset. Let's find out. Welcome, welcome. This is Gull Khan, your money mindset expert. And today I'm so excited. We have someone amazing, absolutely wonderful soul and a wonderful person, Magda Kay. Welcome, Magda.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love your energy just from the start. It's so exciting.
Thank you so much for joining us, Magda. Magda, and thank you for the compliment. Everyone's heard your intro. They know how fabulous you are, but please, Magda, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
So I am an intimacy expert, yes, but I think when it comes to the definition of intimacy, this is when maybe people have different ideas. There is a reason why I don't call myself a dating coach or a relationship or a sex coach, because for me, intimacy is so much broader than that. The way I define intimacy is that this is the depth of your experience of life. So in other words, how alive do you feel? And this is, of course, essential for our romantic relationships and sexuality, but it's something that goes into every area of our lives. And so essentially what I do is I help people connect more to their body, listen to their wisdom, open their senses so they can actually have a deeper experience of being on this planet.
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely beautiful. I absolutely beautiful. And I completely agree. And as we were speaking off camera, I believe intimacy gets ignored by entrepreneurs a lot. And we focus just on, building a business and so forth, but we neglect our needs, and our intimacy is a need that we have as individuals. So start with that. So let's get started with your journey. So can you talk me through, how did you get started with this? How did you end up being an intimacy coach?
So my background is actually in business. I went to the business school. I have my master's in marketing, and I did what I think most of the people did, especially my generation. We were just in love with big corporations. Like that was your dream. Like the bigger the company, the less important you were, the better.
Exactly. Yeah, the corporate dream, right? Oh gosh.
Yes. Oh goodness. Seems so off and far away right now. But that was my life. So I did that. And what happened is I had a few things happen to me when I was around 25. And so, I decided, let's just go fast and let's not wait to have a midlife crisis at 40. Let's just have it now at 25. And so a few things happened. One of them was the death of my beloved grandma,
I'm
and
so
was the
sorry.
first, like, thank you. It was like the first loss in my life. I also had a very serious health scare. I literally thought I had cancer at 25. So all of these things kind of came together, and I just realized that I wasn't happy. And the first shift that I was able to do is that I decided to quit my job at that time in Milan in fashion, all of the, you could say, the dream, at least on the paper. And I took a whole different path and I moved to Malaysia. And so I started working for the company that maybe some of you guys know. It's called Mind Valley. Now we're talking like almost 15 years ago. It was a startup, but this company does courses on personal growth and spirituality. And so I was introduced to, well, a different way of looking at life.
Mm.
I always looked at everything very logical. I have a very high IQ. Like, for those of you who know, I'm in Mensa, which like theoretically makes me a genius. And I say this just to explain that I was really leaning on my logical brain.
Mm.
So that shift to actually listen to my heart and my intuition wasn't an easy one for me. But I started doing this. And then what happened when I was in Malaysia is I went through a very painful breakup. And well, kind of the reason why the things ended was because I wasn't having orgasm.
Mm.
And so it was kind of like, kicking the ass when you're like, okay, I really have to look at it. And I knew that I wanted to go more into sexual healing specifically because I wanted to open my body, because I knew that unless I really look at this, I would be just running away from relationships because I wouldn't want to get myself in the same situation again. So I started looking, and I had heard something about tantra again all those years ago. It wasn't like you would just go and Google it. It just wasn't a thing.
Mm.
So I heard of someone who knew someone whose friend went somewhere. And slowly, I went to an ashram in India. From there, I went to Bali, and then I ended up in a tantric community in Thailand, where I lived for about 6 years. And to be fair, from the perspective of time, well, I can kind of comfortably say that it was a sex cult. But being in that community, I definitely did open up. I did heal a lot of my wounds, and you know, it was all for myself, right? All of this was just for my own healing and my own life. But by then I had already quit, you know, my normal job, and I started coaching on the side here and there. And so naturally, the things I was doing for myself started kind of, you know, also impacting the work that I was doing with my clients, eventually leading me to the life that I have now and the work that I do now.
Wow. So let's unpack that. There's a lot that happened in that period. So at 25, were you working for Mind Valley then?
No, so at 25, I was living in Milan, Italy. For any possible, if you have any Italians, they will know the company is called Luxottica, and it's practically like the biggest company in Italy. It's very, very successful, and it's very, very big. So that was my life at 25.
Then what prompted you from there to leave? Did you leave that job, or were you fired? What prompted you to, go and work for Mind Valley?
So it was honestly my grandmother's death. I don't know what it was, but when that happened, I just realized that I wasn't happy. And you know, another thing that also had happened a few years before that is that my father went bankrupt. So I've been on my own since I was 17. And especially in Poland, because I know, for example, in the US, it's quite common for teenagers to get a job and, you know, get some money. This is not the case in Poland, or at least not when I was a teenager. You would normally stay with your parents until after the uni, because uni is for free and all you needed to do is study. You wanted to make sure you can study hard to get in. You didn't have to worry about paying for your education. So for me, having to take care of myself at 17, it was something I was definitely not ready for. So quitting my job in Milan wasn't that easy, because I was in a situation that if I don't get my salary, I literally don't have money for food. I cannot lean on anyone. And so basically, I was just kind of calculating that, okay, I can afford 2 months without money. So my initial plan was, I'm going to quit my job in Milan because I'm simply unhappy. And I'm going to go back to Poland, stay with my family for about 2 months. I felt like I could do that and just rethink my life. Again, at 25, I'm like, I need to rethink my life. And basically what happened is I messaged one of my former friends who was staying in Malaysia. I didn't really know anything about Malaysia, but it sounded tropical and cool.
Yeah. It's a beautiful country, yeah.
It is, yeah. But I messaged her with this idea that, oh, she's gonna just like suggest, yes, Magda, you can stay with me, come over. She never did. But instead, she told me about this amazing company that she was in, Mind Valley. And so, like, a month passed, boom, boom, boom. Here I am on a call with the founder through the whole process. And suddenly, oh my God, I just got accepted to work in Malaysia. So that thing happened so fast. I honestly didn't have time to stop and think what I'm doing.
Right. And so that's speeding through all that process, just going on autopilot and just going through it. Didn't stop you in your tracks. Didn't think, oh my God, what a drastic step am I taking? I'm going from here to Malaysia to work for another company, which was a startup at the time, so it could have failed as well. I mean, I know Mind Valley is now a huge company, but at that time you're saying
it was just 60 people in the company. Exactly. You never knew. And to be fair, it's like, I think now traveling to Asia, it's pretty normal. But like, again, back in those times, it almost felt like traveling to the moon. There were not many flights between Europe and Asia. It just felt so distant. And it's exactly what you said. I think it's because it happened so fast that my negative thoughts didn't get a chance to say anything.
To stop you in your tracks. Yeah. So once you're in, so what made you leave Mind Valley then?
You know, so
and how long were you with them?
I was with them for about 3 years or 3.5. So what happened is, back in those times, again, the company was very different. It's very similar to what Google used to be when it was a bit smaller. You know, this pretty amazing company culture. And one of the things was that the founder really wanted us to invest in ourselves. And he would literally openly say that he wants us to quit to start our own thing.
Mm.
And I think, to be honest, I don't think I ever I don't like having a boss. I don't like authorities. I don't know if this is something you can relate to, but
Oh,
I
100%,
absolutely
yeah.
I hate when people tell me what to do, especially if I disagree. And it's not even just my opinion. It's like literally, I have like here even studies that tell me that what you're saying is wrong. So I hate doing something just because you're my boss. So I think I always wanted to be on my own with business. But then being in Mind Valley, we were encouraged to start our own thing. Secondly, I learned how to do online business. And there was, you know, one guy, his name is Eugene. I'm gonna be forever grateful to him, who actually showed me how to set up my own website and how to put my first online course online, what platform to use. Like now it's so common for people to have online business. Again, back in, you know, over a decade ago, that was not the case. Blogging wasn't really yet a thing. Instagram wasn't a thing. And so I think I was just in the environment that gave me all the tools that I needed, but also one of the things I am very grateful for is that that company had incredible employees. It was like, if you had an idea, you would always hear, oh my God, that's amazing. Yes, you can do this. Like you were surrounded by cheerleaders. And I'll just tell you a quick story. So once I quit Mind Valley and decided to do my own thing, I actually returned to Poland. And I was like, I'm going to go back to Europe and just see what my next step is. And this is before I ended up in the tantric community. So as you can see, Asia called me back. But in that time, I remember I met with one of the family members and I'm telling them what I want to do. And here is what he said. You know, Magda, the higher you dream, the more it's going to hurt when you fall down.
Yep, I've heard that before. I've heard that before.
So I'm like, oh my God, this is actually why I decided to go back to Asia, because I'm like, we need people who believe in us. You know, we need positivity and optimism. It's like without this, it's really freaking difficult to take a leap. You know.
And you if you surround yourself by people, if you are surrounded by people, which most people are, family members, they do it not because they're malicious. Sometimes it could be because they're jealous of your dreams, but a lot of the time they're not. They're just trying to protect you from being hurt, and they don't want you to risk too much. But I live by the motto: if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. You have to take calculated risks. Sometimes you miscalculate and you really do fall on your face. And that's part of the process. You know, that's how you learn how to calculate risks. You know, you can be overly optimistic, as I have been in the past. But that makes sense. That meant that you were pulled because you've been in a different environment. You've been in a very positive environment. So when you came back to your old, it felt, you know, constrictive. And so therefore you went back. Now, how did you end up in the tantric society community? And why did it take you 6 years to get out? And how did you eventually get out?
So like I said, I had heard about tantra. And then I had heard of some very specific sexual healing practices. And I was very curious. Like I knew I needed this. And at this point, I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I started seeing some energy of abuse in my body, and I didn't know what it was about because I couldn't recall any abuse really that happened to me, but I knew I needed healing. But I didn't even know, like I just heard of this school somewhere in Asia and I didn't even know the name. I didn't know where it was. So what happened is I first went to India in the Tantra yoga ashram, but there was nothing about sexuality. And there was this couple who were talking about that tantra school, that infamous tantra school. But again, no one really knew any details. From there, I decided to move to Bali. And I'm sitting in a women's circle. And there's this one woman, I feel drawn to her. I don't know what it is. You know, sometimes you just like, you have this connection with a person. And at the end of the whole circle, like 2 hours or so, she was just sharing something. And she said, I live in a tantric community. And so I'm immediately like, oh, I have to talk to her. And so I approached her after the circle. And funny thing is, she said that to me, she said, oh, I actually wanted to speak to you. So there's some natural connection. And so it turned out that she was actually living in that famous tantric community that I had heard about. So she started telling me about it, where exactly it is, how the school works, because it's a proper school. You go and you take classes, you practice yoga, meditation, like a lot of energy practices, Kundalini, for hours every day. So she explained to me how it works. And then a few months later, she was going back. And so I decided to go back with her. And that's how I ended in that community.
And then how did you end up leaving? What made you leave?
So, when I look at my life, I think there's a lot of different chapters in the book of my life. And maybe even it doesn't seem like a coherent book. It seems more like a series of short stories. So I've done this a few times where I was fascinated by something. And so I go into this, I want to explore it. And at a certain point, I simply feel like, okay, I've taken enough. Like I've taken what I need and I don't need more. I'm ready to move on to another chapter. And this is really how this felt, like I went deep for the first year. I was doing like practices every day, yogic practices every day. And I get some incredible spiritual experience in my body. But I actually realized that I dread the practice. I don't want to be doing yoga for 4 hours a day. And even though I had these beautiful experiences, like I didn't really feel that it translated into my happiness. Now, I still was in the community. I love the community. It's a small tribe and everyone knows each other. People are very open. There's a lot of love, a lot of intimacy. So I think the community was beautiful, but I just kind of stepped away from the school specifically. And then I was slowly coming to the place where I realized that even though it was extremely beneficial and it gave me the healing that I was looking for, I started missing certain qualities from my life that are unique to the Western world. And mostly what I was missing was my drive. When I was younger, I was extremely driven. I had some crazy, audacious ideas. And often I would just make it happen. And people would look at me like this happened often. Okay, I'll give you an example. So when I arrived to the school, the Tantra school, and this friend of mine who told me about the place, so she once told me like, oh my God, we just had this marketing class in our teacher training and the guy, he's incredible. And my immediate thought is like, oh, I want to be giving marketing classes because this is, I was shortly after, finishing my work for Mindvalley where, that's my past. And she says, Magda, but you can't. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't? She says, well, you have to do a teacher training inside of the school to be able to teach in the school. Now, guess what? I ended up doing marketing classes and no, I never did any teacher training in the school. So that's my natural approach. I mean, it's like you said, maybe I'm a bit too optimistic, a little maybe too cynical or arrogant sometimes. So it doesn't always work. But I lost that. I lost that drive. And I wanted to reconnect to it. And this is why I wanted to start moving away from that community. I wanted to be more surrounded by people who make money. Because like in tantric communities, all those conscious communities, you don't even say money, you say energy exchange.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of like kind of trying to step away from the material world. But I'm like, I actually want to make more money. Like I feel like I haven't hustled enough in my life yet. And so that's why I decided to leave. And now I'm back in Europe trying to kind of find my way and my place that kind of combines these two worlds.
So I'm a bit lost as to how, when you were in there for 6 years, how did you survive? How did you day-to-day living, and you're used to a certain lifestyle, going, even if you're from Poland to Europe and then going to Malaysia, you're still working for a very big company. So you have obviously a certain amount of money and a certain kind of lifestyle. How did you survive and how did you adjust with the lifestyle?
So I think, to be fair, if I just like ended up on the small island in Thailand straight from Poland, it would be a shock. I would not be able to not be able to adapt. But it was progressive because Bali happened on the way, right? So Bali is so sort of like in the middle, but already living in Malaysia. Like if you go to Southeast Asia, it's a very different environment. You end up you get used to walking in flip-flops. You get used to the fact that there's cockroaches, running around, like things like that. And so there's definitely the princess has to go because you're not going to make it in Southeast Asia, and not everyone likes it. So when I was in Thailand in that small community, just so you know, I would walk without shoes. It was a very small island. You were renting a scooter to move around. Like everything was very cheap. You can get the fruit from the tree growing outside of your small bungalow. So the cost of living were very, very low.
Okay.
So you didn't need much money. And we would often do exchange practices for each other. So maybe I would do something for you, and in exchange, you would do something for me, or for like some money, enough to live there. But it was always a problem for every person when it came to visiting Europe, because you need to pay for the flight, and also being in Europe is way, way more expensive.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, wow. And so how now, if you look back at your life, how have all of those experiences helped shape your vision of what's possible for you and shaped your vision for your business? Because I think everything that happens for you prepares you for the next bigger, larger version of yourself. So if you talk us through and wrap this episode up, how has this immense experience helped to shape your vision for yourself?
I think the biggest gift of this whole path so far has been that I feel that my life belongs to me. If I think of a lot of people who kind of live the standard life, when you go to work, then you come home and you do the
The
thing
9 to
every
5,
day.
yeah.
You don't even realize that you just kind of got stuck in the system and you follow. I decide on everything. I decide if I want to work or not. And yeah, there are consequences. Like, for example, I may not make a lot of money if I choose that I don't want to work. But it's a consequence I'm willing to pay for the freedom that I have. So I love it. Like, I feel like my life depends on me. I am the one deciding what I do and how I shape this life. And so if I get great results, it is thanks to me. And if I don't get results, it's also thanks to me. Like I'm in control here, And so I'm very grateful for this, because it definitely opened, like, with this mindset, you feel like, okay, it is truly up to me. I get to decide. And I've had this conversation also with my best friend, about how much money we want to make. And it comes down to really, how much work do I want to do?
Yeah.
But again, I decide, and I love this feeling. And second thing, I feel also, I feel like my mind is just more open when it comes to what's possible. So there's some ideas, some things I want to do, and for many people, they wouldn't even think of that. And for me, it's, but why not? Why not? Like, I see other people, like you, do these cool things. You see people doing podcasts and maybe starting the TV program or something, like, oh, I want to do that. I feel like I have space for this. So, for example, I published a book. I want to write more books. One of the things I want to write is tantric erotica. So one day, hopefully, I'm going to sit down to doing this. But I do have a book. I was contacted by Netflix, and hopefully one day, it didn't work this time because of some logistics, but hopefully one day this will happen. Like, if you talk to people around you, how many people are planning to be on Netflix, right? And so there's all of these kind of ideas that I feel that it is within the reach. Like, I feel like it's available, and then it's just up to me to choose if I am willing to put in the work to get this. But I feel like the way I look at life and opportunities and what I can do with business, I feel it's just way broader than how I used to look at life in my 20s.
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So on that note, we're going to wrap up, Magda. Magda, tell us, how can we connect with the internet? Where can you find you on the internet?
If you Google Magda Kay, it's MAGDAKAY, you're going to find my website. So that's magdakay.com, my YouTube channel, or my Instagram, which are the main places to connect with me. So I would say just start there.
Wonderful. So if you are listening to us on the podcast, the links for Magda would be on the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then down below. In the description section, we'll have the links for Magda as well. Go check her out and see how she can help you with improving your intimacy. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Magda. We haven't touched much upon intimacy. We'll do that on one of the many talkies, so we have to be back for that. But for today, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to me and Magda today on Friday Feature. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how they changed their life by changing their mindset. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.